Hi there again, my grade 6 boys and girls. It's time for another revision session. Today, we will be looking at letter writing, where we re-examine the rules and guidelines to help us in general on how to write formal letters. We once again want to emphasize that revision is normal, but at this time, as we near our national grade 6 examination, we want to zoom in and pay closer attention to the important things. We will try to understand the structure of the language paper 2 and develop our skills of selecting a topic carefully so that we can present the best piece of writing for our language paper 2 examination. We must remember that the language paper 2 is divided into two sections, Section A and Section B. The letter writing components for the examination normally comes in Section A of the paper. Now, we have learned that letter writing can be done in two forms. They can be either friendly or businesslike. And we also use the term formal and informal. The informal letter being the same as friendly letter, and those that are formal are the business letters. Now, in our last session, we examined the topics from past examination papers that were linked to descriptive writing. As I mentioned earlier in the session, we would be looking at scenarios that are linked to letter writing, but more closely linked to formal letters. It is important to note that scenarios linked to formal letters are addressed to persons in a formal way. These persons are usually very busy, so you want to write your letter in such a way that they feel respected and they understand too that you're writing to them about something important. Now, as such, in this type of letter, we should try to be as clear as possible in our writing and use simple language so that we get over the point very easily. Now, formal letters are letters that are written to places like the bank, a government office or agency, the editor of the newspaper, to people who do not know you personally but may be able to address an issue or concern that you have. You may write to ask for a donation, say thank you for something that they would have done through their organization, to make a formal complaint about something that's affecting you in your community, your family, or an institution that you are also a part of. You could also use the formal letter format to apply for a job and for many other reasons. But these are just some of the main reasons that we use the formal letter format to do. A formal letter must have certain rules and conventions. Such a format helps in relaying the information in a very professional way. Remember, I said a formal letter will go to very important people in your community, government offices, agencies, and so. And so you want to do that in a very professional way. So let's go over the parts of a formal letter. It must be noted that a formal letter has a few more parts than the friendly letter. In the formal letter, instead of one address, you will have two. Your address must be included, and then the address of the person or the agency that you are writing to. So your address comes first, and then the title and address of the person that you are writing to. After which you write the date, so that even if the person gets it long after, they can see when you wrote the letter. And the date is there too for the friendly letter. But in the formal letter, you want to make sure that you do that. Then you have the greeting and the salutation. Regardless of what type of letter it is, you must greet the person that you are writing to. And you must do it in a very pleasant manner. Dear sir, madam, or if you have the information, the name of the CEO or the name of the chairman, you can write that. The name of the chairman may be Mr. Anthony or Mrs. Brown. So you could say that, pleasant morning, Mrs. Brown. Dear Mr. Prasad, you can try to greet them in a very pleasant and formal way. If you don't know the name of the person, like I said before, we would normally use Dear Sir or Madam. The heading. This heading tells why the letter is being written or what the letter is about. So a formal letter would usually have a heading before you actually start writing. Now for the body of the letter, the first paragraph states more about the reason that you are writing about. In the second paragraph, you continue to add details. And in the third paragraph, you want to put there your recommendation, your expectation, and a few closing words. Remember, if it's a situation that you are experiencing and you would like them to do something about it, you want to give them a clear picture of what really is happening. And so you have your first and your second paragraph to do that. But you make sure that when you are writing, that they understand clearly what the situation is. Now, there's some formal letters that can be very short. For instance, if you're simply writing a thank you letter for something that was given, it can be very short. But in the same way, you can also say to them why you are so grateful for the donation or for whatever it is they would have done to help you out, and say what you now would do in return to make them proud or so that they would want to continue to help your organization or you personally. You must remember, and like we discussed in previous lessons as well, and we discussed in our handwriting lessons, that for these letters, you must remember that your signature is needed. Remember, your signature is usually placed in cursive writing. After your signature, what you would do is write your name. You write your name under your signature. Now, some people choose to write their names in block writing, and that is quite fine. Some persons choose to write it in sentence form, meaning starting with the capital letter and then continuing with lowercase letters. Whichever way you choose, you must ensure that you write your name in script after your signature. And finally, let's say that your letter was addressed to your head teacher of the school. After you would have written your name, you want to give yourself a title. And what would be your title? Student. You would be referred to as a student. The head teacher is the person you wrote to, and you are the student. So they would know exactly that the person is a part of the institution. Or let's say you're writing to the NDC chairman. After you would have put your signature, after you would have written your name in block or sentence form writing, you would want to put resident so that they know that you are a resident of the community. So these are things that you have to ensure that you have in the format of your formal letter. Now here's a simple layout. You see there are two blocks you have. The first block is for your address. The next block is where you write the title and the address of the person you're writing to. Then you have your greeting, your salutation, the heading. And let's look at this. For this letter, it looks as though we're going to be writing to the headmistress of the school. And what is the title here? No running water in the washroom. This could also be a letter from an employee to the CEO or the director of the company. They might feel that these issues are not being dealt with, nobody's paying attention to it, and so they write a formal letter as a way to complain their issue. So this here is what the general layout of your letter should look like. Now, if the scenario given in the examination is directed to someone in authority, such as a manager, your head teacher, a minister, etc., then you know that you have to write a formal letter. Those are just a few clues. You ask yourself, remember we try to figure out how do we understand who we are writing to or what type of letter. Remember, formal letters are usually to people that you don't really know or you don't communicate with on a day-to-day basis. They're persons in places of or positions of authority. Now let's examine a few scenarios which are focused on formal letters. Your class is planning a fundraising activity and needs permission from the head teacher. Write a letter to the head teacher seeking permission to have the fundraising activity. Your teacher has planned a visit to a farm in your community. Write a letter to the owner of the farm asking for permission to do so. State clearly 3 different activities that you wish to see happen. Write a letter to the mayor or village chairman complaining about mosquito nuisance in your community. Make suggestions about what can be done to get rid of the mosquitoes. You are a captain of a cricket team. Write a letter to the captain of the team from a neighboring school inviting his or her team to play a friendly match. Now, even though it says cricket team and it says a friendly match, don't be thrown off. It is a formal letter because you have a title here. You're the captain of a cricket team. So that in itself is a formal position. It's a position of authority. And you're writing to someone else in a position of authority. You are writing to the captain of a neighboring team. Last Saturday, you saw a program on television which you did not like. Write a letter to the producer of the program giving 3 reasons why you did not like this program. So this here is a letter of complaint. So you want to be able to draw your ideas around that. It's a letter of complaint, very formal letter, which is being sent to the producer of the program, right? Whatever channel showed the program. So these are information you may want to have. Write a letter to the editor of one of the daily newspapers commending the good efforts of the volunteers at the last Carry Festa. Write a letter to your head teacher suggesting activities you would like your class to engage in after your examination is over. The buses which pass through the area where you live are being driven very fast. Write a letter to the traffic chief informing them about your views on the matter. Give him 2 recommendations that may solve the problem. A learning resource center contains a library, computer, and access to internet services. Write a letter to the Chief Education Officer outlining 3 benefits of having a learning resource center in your village. Your school plans to host a market day to raise funds for the annual prize-giving exercise. Write a letter to a citizen or business owner in your community asking for a donation for this activity. Give 3 reasons to support your request for the donation for this activity. Now, when we are going through these scenarios, whichever one you may want to choose, you may want to look at a few key points. Make sure you can identify who directly you're writing to. Make sure in some scenarios they may give the person a gender. It may be a male, it may be a female. Pay attention to those things. Now, in this last scenario I just read, it says write a letter to a citizen or business owner in your community. So think about addresses now. Your addresses should be matching because it is someone in your community. So those are key things, you know, little pointers that you want to pay attention to. The playground in your community has become overgrown with bushes, and the children can no longer enjoy the use of this playground. Write a letter to the counselor of your village giving 3 reasons why it is necessary for the children to have the use of the playground. There is a ban on the use of cell phones in schools in your country, but you see cell phones as a necessary tool for students to use. Write a letter to the Minister of Education in which you provide 3 reasons why she should remove this ban. Now, the pandemic has given you quite an experience that should you get a scenario like this, you should be able to write a perfect letter. Your village has several attractions that you believe would be of interest to tourists. You are given the opportunity to tell a tourist about your village. Write a letter for a tourist magazine in which you describe 3 areas of interest in your village for tourists to experience. The key thing to look for when you are writing a formal letter is to see if it is asking you to write to someone in authority. Then try to do your plan and outline the format of your letter with relevant information in the body. So let's go over the structure of the formal letter. Remember, you will have 2 sets of addresses, your address and the address of the organization or that person in authority. You also state the title of that person. Is it the head teacher? Is it the CEO? Is it the director, the traffic chief, the village councillor, the village chairman? You have your salutation or your greeting. You always try to remain as pleasant as possible. The heading, which gives a short description of what the letter is based on. The body is where you use to give all the details of the task which you're writing about. You have your closing, your signature, your name, which is written in block or sentence form writing, but must be in script. And then you have your title. Are you a citizen? Are you a group member? Are you a student? Whatever your title is or what part of the organization you play, you should use that under your name. Well, boys and girls, I hope that you really did take away a lot of important points from this lesson. It is important that you know and understand what each question or task is asking you to do. Remember the paper 2, you're only asked to choose one scenario to write on. It can either be from the section A or the section B. If you choose a scenario from the section A, it means that you would be writing a letter, which can either be a friendly or formal letter. Remember, the more you write, the more practice you get, the better you would become. As always, I'm Ms. Shamsuddin saying see you next time on the revision session of the NGSA Booster.